Howdy, folks. Welcome back to NiteBites. I'm your host, Clark Garen.
And I'm Denise Oliver, your co-host.
And before we left, Miss Denise was making a smart aleck remark to the effect that when I grew up, she was kind of surprised we had television.
I didn't know they had TV.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay. Well, the thing about it is, it's not all really that much of a smart aleck remark, because the kind of TV we had was very black and white. No pun no racial pun intended. You had the bad guys who were really clearly the bad guys. You had the good guys who always won. It was a very simple world. Superman fought crooks, not environmental invaders from another planet. Dragnet, the cops were your friends. The criminals were the bad guy. We didn't have to deal with racial profiling. It was a very simple world, and it reflected a much more fixed world that I think was probably easier for kids to comprehend, because you didn't have heroes who were compromised.
Yes.
And you didn't have villains who had some redeeming social value.
Right.
And so it imprinted a very much of a good person, bad person, role models. You know, Hopalong Cassidy and Roy Rogers and Superman and Wyatt Earp. Cheyenne. I thought of Cheyenne because it was an old series with Clint Walker that they're replaying on the satellite now. My dad used to love it. But all these heroes were, in fact, heroes.
Right.
They didn't smoke, they didn't drink, they didn't gamble, they didn't chase women. Most of them didn't even have women. And it made, as you were growing up as a kid, it made your role models much more well-defined. And I think one of the problems we have in our age is that when you grew up, you said you were a daddy's girl. Your big role model was your daddy. Well, today, too many kids are looking as Paris Hilton as their role model.
Right.
Or Justin Timberlake as a role model.
Yeah.
And these people, I mean, when at least the role models that I grew up with, and I think to an extent you grew up with, they were fictional characters controlled by a studio.
Yeah.
These role models are real, alive people who have all the frailties and ethical challenges that you might expect of real-life people. And the thing about it is, most real-life people don't make good role models.
True. And even back then, if you did have a role model, which was like a movie star, like Elizabeth Taylor or something like that, the studio pretty much kept whatever they did under wraps. So everything you saw was sanitized. You didn't see them out drinking and smoking and...
Well, let's go to something a little bit more contemporary. Let's compare for the moment John F. Kennedy and William Jefferson Clinton, who both, we have since found out, shall we say, were not strictly faithful to their wives.
Right.
They did not have textbook marriages. And the exploits of John F. Kennedy were kept secret.
That's right.
And those of William Jefferson Clinton were exploited for political advantage.
Right.
And the question is, which were we, the people, best served by? Were we better served by allowing John F. Kennedy to become a larger-than-life character? Or were we better served by the press and the political persecution of turning him into a lesser-than-life figure?
Yeah. And I think that there is such a thing as too much information.
Okay.
And that familiarity does, in fact, breed contempt. There are certain things that we just don't need to know. I mean, if it didn't impact the nation or the security of our nation, Why did we need to know what was happening under the desk at the Oval Office?
Well, of course, some people would say, and not exactly incorrectly so, that what Kennedy was doing with the girlfriend of the mafia boss
yeah.
did impact national security.
Yeah.
But then the other side of the coin is that was handled by J. Edgar Hoover, who basically said, look, this is impacting national security. You knock it off, or I'm going to go public. And
Right.
it got knocked off.
It got knocked off. And the country didn't suffer the worst for it
Mm-hmm.
that we know of.
And I have always felt that 9/11 was due in some measurable part to the time Slick Willie and his Slick Willie spent working on Monica and the defense of impeachment instead of defending our country.
Well, that was it. I mean, it was a big distraction for our country. And it's something that really we didn't need to deal with at that time. We had national security interests that needed to be addressed. And quite correctly, that could have led in large
Now,
part to
I don't know that Slick Willie was really willing to address them. But if he'd have said, we have this problem with bin Laden, we need to send troops to Pakistan, everybody would have accused him of doing Wag the Dog, which is
Exactly.
a fictional novel about a fictional president who creates a fictional conflict to deflect political heat.
Exactly.
But I also think that Obama seems to have really learned from that. I mean, we've had this whole rigmarole over this legislator out of Illinois, this attorney general who wants to be appointed, who's been appointed to the Senate, and whether he's going to be seated or not.
Burris.
And, you know, Senator Reid from Nevada's running around like a chicken with his head cut off, won't let him in, won't let him in. And Obama started to look at all the coverage. He says, let's get rid of this.
Yeah.
Let's put it on a shuffle off to Buffalo. We don't want drama. Dianne Feinstein says, oh, you didn't tell us about our CIA pick. Now, what Bush would have said is, I don't got to tell you, you damn witch. And what Obama does is say, gee, I'm really sorry. And Biden calls up, I'm so really sorry, we made a mistake. And then that lets it move on. Yeah, and it's over.
Yeah.
So
I think he has learned a good lesson. No
yeah,
drama.
it's going to make it real hard for us talk show people, but it's going to make it really good for us Americans. Thank you for joining us. Please keep your eye on the internet for our next show. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.